Hey, brethren, I just wanted to make another exhortation. I had a translator email me and say, James, I've seen that only a few people are clicking on some of the videos and on some of the language sites, and they said, well, they're discouraged by that. And I want to encourage you guys not to be discouraged. Let's think about a couple things real quick. Think about this. One, a video may have 20,000 views, but if no one's being converted and no one's being helped, it doesn't matter how many views it has. What we want to be careful of doing is worrying about a view count. For all I know, a translated video in German has 50 views, and somehow God saved 5 people with that. I mean, and then there's another video with 50,000 views, and no one's been converted. And what we need to do is believe the Lord as we're translating, as we're putting videos out. We're not trying to get tons of views. Now, views are a good thing. It means people are seeing it, and may God be saving people. But we don't want to base everything off of the view count. We want to be very careful on that. Another thing to think about is this. Charles Spurgeon, how many people know him now, but they didn't know him back then? And my point is this. You never know 20 years from now or 100 years from now or who knows when, some translated video with captions, someone's going to read it and God's going to save them. Or for all we know, some video is going to go viral, is the English term. It's going to go viral in a couple of months and thousands of people are going to see it. I mean, we just don't know what's going to happen. And so I don't want you all getting discouraged out there about, well, how many views something has, because I know as I've been running this site for 4 years, there's times where there's a sinful fleshly desire at times where you worry about view count, where you'll check to see how many views it has. Now, it can be encouraging when you see that, hey, that Portuguese video that we put up the other day has 350 views from a mobile phone, from mobile phones. So obviously somehow it's getting out there on mobile devices. And so those things can be encouraging because we do want the truth to get out. But don't be discouraged if something only has 10 views or something like that. Don't let that discourage you. Just we've got to trust the Lord. Are we being faithful to do what the Lord is commanding us to do? At any moment, God could have tons of views on something. I mean, perfect example is the Shocking Youth message. That sermon, once it was preached, was on a DVD. It was nowhere on the internet. And then at some point, a brother out there got a hold of that DVD and put it on the internet. I mean, from my understanding, Paul Washer, up until that point, that sermon was discouraging to him because only 1 or 2 people even came forth after the sermon and told Paul that it helped them or that it convicted them. It seemed that most of the people in the stadium were not even, affected by the message. And so look now how that message has affected so many people. What we've got to do is trust the Lord. Remember, Psalms 127:1, it talks about if we build and the Lord's not behind it, we're laboring in vain. And my hope, as we're putting all these language sites up and getting videos translated, is that the Lord is behind it all. And then I'm confident we're not laboring in vain. And I'm confident that in light of eternity, there will be fruit. Whether a video's got 100,000 views or 100 views, as long as we're helping people, encouraging people, even if there's only 50 people following a language site and 50 people are getting fed the truth, that's 50 people out there. That's a lot of people. I mean, think about if you had 50 people every day you could talk to and encourage. Well, by translating a video and those 50 hearing it in their own native tongue and understanding it, you're encouraging them. And they're in the same race we're in, and we've got to make it to the end. And so I don't know. Those are some brief thoughts. I pray that encourages you guys out there not to quit, not to give up, not to get consumed with subscribers and view counts. We don't want to let that become an idol at all in our heart. And so keep pressing on faithfully, doing what the Lord is calling you to do. And if right now, this season in your life, it's to translate, then do that faithfully. And I trust that it's not in vain and that the Lord's going to have His elect who He wants to hear the translation work, hear it, and He's going to use it to pierce their hearts, to save them, and to encourage those who already are converted. And so press on, brothers and sisters. I guess that's all for now. And Lord willing, soon I'm finally going to get a big advertisement video out for this translate.illbehonest.com domain name. And we're basically, as you can see, if you've been following the site at all, I've been modifying some of the pages. Even the completed SRTs page is a little more modified. And I'll put a tutorial up on the whole process again soon. So be encouraged, brothers and sisters who are out there, and press on. This is not in vain. What is it? 1 Corinthians 15:58. You know what? I'll go to it on eSword really quick. 58. It says this, "Therefore, my beloved brothers, be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that in the Lord your labor is not in vain." We've got to believe that in the Lord our labor is not in vain. If I am laboring and doing what God has called me to do, it's not in vain. It's not in vain. There's great hope in that. And we've got to be steadfast and immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. I mean, last thought. This church I'm part of in San Antonio started with like 10 people. And for 5 years, there was only 10 people. They would have months where no visitors would come. I mean, imagine we start a language site and it seems like a video's got like 2 views in 6 months. Are you going to still be translating? Or are you going to get discouraged and say this is a waste of time? For all you know, people are going to start to come. God's going to start to save people. It's going to get up there on search engines and Google. It's going to go viral on Facebook. We never know what's going to happen. That's why we've got to be faithful and say, am I doing the Lord's work? And then do that, trusting that God's on the throne and that we're being faithful to not compromise the gospel, and God will honor our labors in the end. And so I hope that encourages you guys. If it doesn't, give me an email, and I hope to send something else to encourage you with. So press on. Bye for now.